We just talked about what happens when you shock the supply and demand equilibrium. For the AP test, there are 6 main reasons why the demand curve can shift up or down. One is consumer income. If consumers see a change in income, their demand for a good changes. For example, for normal goods, higher income means a shift up in demand. Another reason demand can shift is because of changes in the price of substitute goods. If the price of Pepsi goes up, people will switch to Coke, so the demand curve for Coke will shift up. Similarly, demand can also shift up or down if the price of a complementary good changes. If the price of jelly goes up, then people will make fewer peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. As a result, the demand curve for peanut butter will shift down. A change in tastes and preferences will also cause the demand curve to shift. In the late 1950s, there was a hula hoop craze. Suddenly, everybody wanted a hula hoop. This caused the demand curve to shift way up. Another reason demand can shift is if the number of consumers changes. For example, later in the course we'll talk about free trade agreements, which allow US companies to sell goods in other countries with no barriers. Imagine that US companies never were able to sell goods in China, and that market opened up suddenly. That's over 1 billion new potential customers. That will shift the demand curve up. Finally, the demand curve can shift because of future expectations. Imagine that everybody suddenly becomes worried that the price of gasoline is going to go up tomorrow. It hasn't happened yet, but it will if they wait a day. This can cause consumers to load up on gasoline today. What about the supply curve? Which factors can cause the supply curve to shift? The AP test has 2 basic categories. The first is the cost of an input. You need sugar to make lemonade. If the price of sugar drops, producers will make more lemonade and the supply curve will shift to the right. Second, technology can change. If you invent a machine that can manufacture cars faster than before, this lets producers make more units of the good at a lower cost. The supply curve therefore shifts to the right. Okay, so I just hit you with a big list of reasons supply and demand can shift. How does this work in reality? For example, I said that taste might change, cause the demand curve to shift. But what could cause such an abrupt shift in the demand curve? 2 words: Kim Kardashian. A lot of you probably use Instagram. It's a photo-based social network owned by Facebook, where you can post pictures and follow other people as they post theirs. A lot of celebrities are on it. For several years, fashion companies have been aware of the Kardashian effect. Here's what happens. Kim or one of her sisters posts a picture of a product, then demand for that product goes crazy. This makes sense when you realize that Kim has over 80 million followers, more than the population of France. As a result, fashion lines and stores are desperate to get into one of Kim's Instagrams. But does this really affect the entire market equilibrium? Absolutely. In October of 2014, Kim posted pictures of a waist corset that she used when working out. She said it helped her slim her waist. Scientists say this can't possibly be true. The corset can make your waist look thinner when you're wearing it, but it has no effects once you take it off. But it turns out not many people care about the science. Check out this graph of Google searches for the word corset. See that huge spike? That happened right after Kim's post. Hourglass Angel is a company that makes these waist training corsets. Their sales nearly tripled in the 2 years after Kim's post. This is illustrated in this graph of supply and demand. This graph shows what happened before Kim's post. After Kim's post, demand shifts up. The shift in the entire demand curve moves us along the supply curve to a point of higher quantity sold and a higher price. So that's the basic story. Kim Kardashian posts a picture, preferences change in an instant, and demand curve shift. It's interesting to note this isn't really the end of the story. Because of the post, a few corset companies started raking in cash. You might be able to predict what happened in the long term. New companies popped up to take advantage of these higher profits in the corset market. At the time of Kim's post, there were 2 major companies that made waist training corsets. But within months of the boom in sales, a new company called Hourglass Express entered the industry. Weeks later, a Pennsylvania company called Royal Linus also started selling the corsets at a lower price. So eventually, the profits in the industry attracted new competitors. Basically, Kim Kardashian made a few random people really rich really fast. I wonder if I can convince Kim to post a picture of an economics textbook on Instagram.